Hey there, welcome to Between Two Rods Fishing Podcast. My name is Aaron Rich. I'm your host today, and I'm really excited to talk to my guest that's here with us, and I'll introduce him in just a second. But I'd first like to thank our sponsors, BassTackleSupply.com. Has all your freshwater fishing needs. For 10% off on BassTackleSupply.com, use the promo code TWORODS, 2 rods, and that'll give you 10% off on your order. Please support those guys and help us out with the podcast here too. And we'd also like to thank Devil Road Whiskey, who is a sponsor as well. And Devil Road Whiskey is a new product that's out there. Great product. I definitely implore y'all whiskey advocates to check that stuff out, man. It's awesome. So, and today I got a great guest, man, friend of mine, and man, you got a really interesting job. Brett Connell's my guest today, and Brett is the hydrologist and director of sales for Trutta Environmental Solutions. Yep. And your background is in fisheries and stream restoration. You started in fisheries and stream restoration. What sparked your interest in that from the beginning?
So I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and my grandfather had a boat going on Lake Erie, going fishing every weekend. And I just remember some of my earliest memories getting very, very excited that I get to go on Grandpa's boat and go out fishing on Lake Erie. Mm-hmm. Then I grew up walleye fishing on the Maumee River, and obviously any farm pond within bike riding distance. Oh, yeah. I'd be sneaking in there with a fishing pole and throwing some spinners. So either way,
if there's a drainage ditch or a farm pond, man, as a kid, I'm on it. So
you're grabbing crayfish or pulling hand catching fish. No, that was my childhood.
Yeah, very cool. So looking back to your early career and your seasonal work with the Utah Division of Wildlife Services, what do you take from those early field experiences that shaped what you are today?
So anytime I talk to future students, I always say, do the internships. Mm-hmm. It's the most important thing. And so like during my undergrad, I think like my first summer internship was with Ohio EPA. Then the next one I drove out west and I worked for the U.S. Forest Service out of Montana. Mm-hmm. You'd work 8 straight days out in the field and then you'd get 6 days off. And so I just remember being out there and sitting in the water and being like, this is my office. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So it was, I continued on that path, worked for the Corps of Engineers, worked for Idaho Fish and Game. And then my last stint as a fisheries biologist was Utah Division of Natural Resources. And I remember, like, I would have done it full time and I loved being in Utah. And Alan Ward was his name. And he said, well, I want to hire you full time. You're great, but you don't have a master's degree. Yeah. And so obviously, like, every, career or life change, it was because of an old girl. I made a call to University of Tennessee, called the fisheries department and, kind of left my verbal resume. And then the biosystems engineering department calls me back. Yeah. And so it just, I had 5 days later, I was on a plane to the biosystems engineering department at UTK in Knoxville.
No kidding. Wow.
And they offered me a research assistantship. And so it was just that whole story of, one, I would not have gotten that graduate research assistantship had I not had all my previous internships. Because honestly, my undergrad GPA was not good enough to get me into a master's. Yeah. But all those internships, like my resume for being, I guess I was like 4 years out of undergrad by then.
Yeah, and those things have so much preparation for what you end up doing in life and to understand professional environments and all that. It's, we get a ton of interns at my business, and I always think it's a resume builder, and it obviously built you into getting into that master's program as well.
Absolutely. And being able to work at the state level and the federal level, numerous different organizations, and seeing how those work, because that definitely plays even better now into my current situation, running marketing of a company and understanding how those other organizations work. Yeah. And so, that experience was absolutely amazing.
So the transition from you being a researcher and a teacher's assistant at UT, going into starting your own company with Trutta Consulting, like what led you to make that transition? What gave you that confidence?
So going to conferences, I remember the first time I went to a conference and had to give a presentation. I could barely get words out. I wanted to vomit. Like I could barely give that presentation. That was just one of those things I'll never forget. But it just came through repetition. And, by the time I graduated, the research I was doing, which was using georeferenced video to do a bank erosion hazard index, that information, people that I'd go to conferences to, like, this has insane potential. Like, you should pursue this.
Yeah. And it's really interesting stuff.
It is. And it's like we're still pretty much the only people that do it. We're the only people who do it our way, and we can kind of get into the efficiencies of it. But it was absolutely terrifying because I had always worked for somebody else, different organizations, and then to go on my own, it was terrifying at first, and I learned a whole lot.
Yeah,
I'm wearing this shirt right here. I wore on purpose because I remember like within that first year of having my own company, I bought shirts.
Yeah.
With a logo on it to look professional, but the next month I didn't have enough money to pay for my professional insurance in order to operate as a company. I was like,
it's the perils of business, man.
Big old learning curve. But
sure.
Since 2012, that's definitely learned a lot. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
A lot of peaks and valleys.
So your method, the high definition stream survey that has been applied to over 1,400 miles of streams in the U.S., which is pretty awesome. What led to that creation, and was there a gap you were trying to fill in the market?
It's absolutely, there's that data gap. And so you have traditional stream assessments where if anybody listening, if you've ever worked in the stream, you stretch a tape across the river and you measure, at what depths, so you measure like that bathymetric cross section of the river. You'll pick up pebbles and do, how many are this size or how many are boulder, bedrock, and you spend you can have 3 to 4 people in this tiny little section getting a whole bunch of very precise information all day.
Yeah.
But that's all you have is a whole bunch of very precise information right here in that 200-meter stretch. And then it's still pretty commonplace where they'll take that information and extrapolate it for miles upstream and downstream, assuming that it's
the same.
Representative. Yeah. And I always throw that in quotes because if you've ever been on a river and floated more than 200 yards, you see that it's
constantly changing.
They're dynamic by nature in a completely natural environment, but then you start throwing different land uses and different levels of development, agriculture. It is incredibly variable. And so we've just shown that in my early research, and then let alone the jobs. Heck, I think we're close to 2,000 miles we've actually surveyed by now because I just got back from Virginia on a 160-mile project on the New River.
That's awesome.
And so, you have the traditional type of assessment, but then you also have geographic, landscape, GIS. And what we do is we're able to survey 20 miles of river in a day, where we can cover typically 20 miles if we're working by boat. And, GIS modeling, you can model the whole continental U.S. with depending on what types of data. But the thing that some of that landscape modeling lacks is the model is only as good as the data that you put in there. And so if you have poor resolution data, all you're doing is modeling poor resolution
and yours
results.
is high def. So is that the speed at which you operate and the definition, is that the primary differences between your HDSS and traditional?
Yeah, it fills in that big gap, because landscape wise you can model thousands of miles of river at a time, but you're constrained by the data that you're inputting into that model. And so again, that's just where we'll cover 20 miles in a day, and because we sync everything to GIS, and so GIS runs at 1 hertz, and so you get a time, a latitude, a longitude, and an elevation every single second. And so then all we do is take video information, water quality information, side scan sonar information, and we sync all this. And it's like we use off-the-shelf equipment.
So it's like where you have overlays on GSS and you can turn off those layers and check them out. That's awesome.
It starts. In fact, it kind of first started way back in grad school where people that managed watersheds, all they would have was a thin blue line representing that river where it went through the map. But now it's literally hundreds of thousands of GPS points going throughout the whole watershed, and every single one of those GPS points, now it has time, latitude, longitude, surface water elevation, substrate elevation, that gives you depth. And then you can start watching the video and having all sorts of, how's the bank condition, or what's the riparian cover, what's the canopy cover, is there cows, defecating in the water, what issues are happening where. And so that's that kind of the main point is cover 20 miles in a day, exactly what the problems are, where, how bad are they, and then how far is that extent? Is it a small impact that just has a very localized impact, or does it extend for 3 miles downstream because it's such a bad impact? And you see it all. And
that gives them the data on the ecological impact so they can make changes to it and mitigate those things, I assume, right?
Absolutely. And that's just one aspect, it was originally created to do stream bank prioritization. And so throughout a watershed, which areas were contributing the most amount of sediment, which sediment impacts water quality, it impacts substrate quality, embeddedness, all that. And so that impacts, it is, I think sediment should still be like the number one pollutant across the United States, is just sediment continuously coming in, because too much sediment's bad. Some sediment is natural.
Is that primarily land development that causes that, or?
And so, yeah, I don't just want to say there's variations and it's different everywhere. And having a good riparian, having good trees. In fact, like cypress trees are my favorite, and I just saw a whole bunch of them floating down Econfina. Wherever you have, cypress trees or just any good riparian tree, depending on where you are in the U.S., as long as there's good big trees and a good healthy understory, one, that river is healthy, but it's also like we just went and surveyed the New River, which had Hurricane Helene impacts. And I remember it was just like plain as day. The only areas where it looked bad was where there was agriculture or development.
Yeah.
And anywhere where it was natural, you couldn't even tell a storm went through there. Like, it was just wild.
Wow,
like the ability for those big, strong trees that have deep roots.
Yeah.
They can handle a landscaping event, like a landscape flood. Like it was an absolute big disaster that happened out there, and the New River got
that's pretty telling.
Oh yeah, I mean, so just trees are good, and so again, that's kind of the basis of what I like my company is. Like, we provide massive amounts of data to kind of balance that conservation and development, because there's that fine line between use and abuse, and if you do, you can do it right if you have the right data.
Yeah, for real. Who's a typical client that you work with? What does that look like?
All over. So
is it like wildlife commissions, or?
So it's U.S. Fish and Wildlife has funded a lot from the federal level, NRCS. We have a lot of work from Alabama Power Company. So we do a lot of hydrologic modeling for FERC licensing, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And so you have hydropower. Our two biggest things recently is the abandoned mine lands. And so pre-1977, mining companies pretty much got to do whatever they want. But then in 1977, the law was put into place, and a lot of them just declared bankruptcy, took the profits and ran, and now the taxpayers are cleaning up the bill, right? Yeah. And so it's a big, big mess. And with anything, like, you want to prioritize where those decisions are. And so it might not be stream bank erosion, but now this is more of a water quality issue. Yep. And so when we map, we did a 250-mile project on the Hurricane Creek outside of Tuscaloosa, and we prioritize, not only which subwatersheds, but what are the primary, very small subwatersheds. Like, where's the lowest hanging fruit? Where can those managers put money and have it do the most amount of improvement, whether that improvement is water quality, whether that's habitat quality, like threatened and endangered species, habitat quality, like the list kind of, there's numerous ways to prioritize a water body depending on who's managing for what.
It's amazing how your work impacts the quality of the water systems that we have. Has there been a time where HDSS uncovered something that was really a game changer for a community?
A game changer for a community. I'd say the Hurricane Creek project, like, prioritizing, like, they kind of knew where the worst areas were. And like some of the pH levels that we were seeing were, like 3.2, like, it was very, very acidic water, which is totally unusable for most wildlife and plants. I mean, either way, it was very bad. And so as far as like that, like, water quality plays into society very well. If it's poor water quality, you can't go out to the river and enjoy those resources that you have. I mean, Econfina is a perfect example of that's a beautiful river. It was impacted by Hurricane Michael, but water quality wise, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so it's hard to say. Have I seen something specifically on the water that was life changing? Not necessarily, but it's prioritizing decision making for numerous different applications.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure your impacts go on for years of things that you study and provide data on. That those impacts are pretty lasting down the road as well.
And what's you got really close there. When we go and do a survey again, now we can show with meter resolution where has change occurred. Like, where has it improved or where has it gotten worse? Because whether it's abandoned mine reclamation or if it's hurricane recovery, a lot of money is being spent trying to improve those areas. And so, one, we prioritize where those decisions are made, but then we also can provide receipts when we go back,
Yeah.
5 or 10 years later and do
Yeah.
another survey. We're showing with meter resolution, oh, wow, this $1 million project did this much benefit, but this 1.5 million project did this much benefit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's giving more accountability.
Yeah.
I like it.
And if the mitigation steps work and stuff like that, I mean, being able to go back and reassess when you have that kind of data and you go back and rescan it, I'm sure shows whether it was positively affected or negatively affected by the decisions that are made there. So that's pretty amazing.
Because there's a lot of restoration dollars spent that don't equate to any improvement. But some people like spending money.
Well, hopefully that leads to better effective decisions too.
100%.
Yeah.
I've always said it's my pipe dream in life is to make governments more efficient, right?
Yeah.
And just like having one survey.
You say this works or this doesn't work, and now you really know the data that you can do that with your technology.
Absolutely.
So what's one of the biggest challenges you've had with scaling HDSS from your idea initially to using it across the country today?
We've gone the slow way of scaling, and I think at this point it's smart because it's a brand new technology, and we've been improving the survey. The data collection side of it has been vastly improved since 2012. But then also what we're finding is like the brains of high definition stream survey is the post processing, and not only how high of a quality product can we put out, but also we need to streamline it. We need to make it faster and better, and then that way the costs can come down. And so it's a constant balance of it's just streamlining everything, reduce the cost that it costs us to do a single mile. And then again, just being able to, I'd love to get this service as cheap as possible so that we can do
more
the entire continental United States and do it every 5 years.
That'd be amazing if they were all mapped and then, you go back and it's kind of like, you think about like Google Earth and stuff like that, how the satellite is constantly scanning. It'd be great to be able to have all that data on those things, and then you just know so much more. And water's becoming critically important in this world, man.
100%. That's I always tell kids in college, like I have job security. Like if you know GIS and you know water, you're good.
Yeah, you're
like,
good. You're right about that.
Good.
What do you think is the biggest threat facing U.S. rivers and streams today, based on your observations?
So improve riparian, and some people kind of laugh at me. My biggest pet peeve in the world is cows. Right. And it's like, and of course, and I love beef. Every time I'm surveying a river, I have a bag of beef jerky next to me. So it might be.
You eat a lot of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, exactly. might be a little hypocritical, but there's again right ways and wrong ways to do stuff. And when people have unfenced cattle with free range on a river, they destroy all the trees, all the big trees that hold that sediment. And so not only do you have, I've seen 400 cows in a river at once.
Oh, wow.
And you can't, like the difference between point source pollution and non-point source pollution is that there has to be a conveyance, like a pipe, concrete, metal, whatever, some sort of conveyance of pollutant into the water. That's a point source. But whereas a cow, because it sometimes poops on the land, that's a non-point source.
Yeah.
However, I see that as 400 point source polluters out in the river.
Well, then when it rains, that goes in there too.
I have some footage that would absolutely terrify you. but it's so you have the water quality from their unfiltered.
So you hate cows. I got you. Right.
I hate cows in my rivers. I like to eat cows. And so again,
get them out of the rivers and onto the plate. So.
It's as easy as fencing the cattle out, providing off-site shade, and even if you did a solar paneled roof and pumped water from the river to have off-site watering so they weren't in the rivers, and you'd provide shade, which they're usually underneath, the canopy anyway, trying to get shade. So
you think most cattle owners just don't know the impact?
I would say, so call it ignorance, if you will. Some of them don't know. I'd say a lot of them don't care. But there are a lot of good ones who I've met who do care, and they also understand that preserving their farmland protects their way of life. And so I've gone, again, all the miles of river I've paddled, I've seen lots of farmland just getting eroded away because they didn't ensure a thick buffer of riparian to hold that stream bank in place. But now with that gone, I've seen row crops just getting dumped into the river, like actively. I mean, I have it on video. It's absolutely wild just to see how close they'll, plant crops to, and then it just keeps washing away. And
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
there's things called BMPs, best management practices, and those are voluntary. They're encouraged, but they're not enforced. And so, where do you draw the line telling people what to do with their land to try and protect water quality for all? And so I do not have the answer, but I think using high definition stream survey would
Yeah.
prioritize, what what stretches of river are producing the most amount of sediment and the most amount of, bovine waste. Or, I mean, you have confined agricultural feedlots.
Yeah.
There's bad players and there's good players all over the country.
Where do you see environmental tech going in the next 5-10 years with regards to what you do?
I mean, AI is already here. And so one of the sensors we run is called the side scan sonar unit. Any person fishing on a boat has used that before.
Yep, for sure.
But we take that, and there's programs out there now called Ping Mapper, and that's Cameron Bodine. He created this when he was in grad school, and it's an absolutely amazing tool. Right now, it's technically only ground truth to Gulf streams, mainly sturgeon habitat. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife worked with him. Adam Kaiser here in town, great guy, good guy. So you have AIs already involved with, I can literally survey 20 miles of river, take that, it's called a JSON file, which is what comes out of the Hummingbird side scan sonar. I can upload it to this, and it'll automatically delineate, different types. Is this bedrock, or is this sand, or is that? And it's an amazing tool.
Yeah.
And so you have
big
that
time
that's
saver,
already in place. Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
That's a big time saver.
It's huge, because typically I would have to look at every meter of river and kind of draw polygons myself and assign those polygons a value before we could export it through GIS. But so that is being automatic. And then we also have proposals out to work with AI for imagery. Because right now, like I just did 160 miles of the new river, I'm going to have to watch 160 miles of the left bank and 160 miles of the right bank to determine, bank erosion hazard index for each side. And so that's going to be a very time-consuming process. But what's good is, we already have close to 2,000 miles that I've already assessed. That's our machine. And so we just need to start building machine learning. And hopefully now I won't have to watch all 160 miles. You could just run that program.
And it will detect the things it needs to.
It'll detect what needs to be detected. And then obviously, especially in the early stages, there's going to be a whole lot of QA, QC, making sure that the model's correct.
I bet you are incredible at reading side imaging data. Like, I need to get you on the bass boat and just have you show me some tricks on that to make me better at it, man. But
so that'll be my business partner, Jim Parham. He still is a very avid fisherman, but he doesn't go fishing; he goes catching.
Yeah,
he's an insanely good fisherman. But
and I would think with your knowledge, you guys' knowledge of electronics, you really would be able to hone that in, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
no,
that's become a really big thing in the fishing world. The use of modern technologies like that to just, I can literally, I got stuff on the boat where I can see fish moving around the boat in real time. It's amazing.
What type of structures there? What are they feeding on? Everything.
It's awesome.
They use side scan sonar to count sturgeon already. It's an incredible tool. And like all equipment, it always keeps getting better and better. And so you need to buy the newest, the newer version every 2 or 3 years. If we want to be on the cutting edge of.
Costs a lot of money to be a fisherman, man. Absolutely. So, a question I wanted to ask is: do you think that the climate change in the world is shaping, water resource management? How do you see the impacts of the things that you observe?
Yeah, we're going to have more sporadic storms that are out of the norm, which, Hurricane Helene is a perfect example for that. And so, it's right now we're doing disaster recovery, but a lot of people also realize, well, what if we had that high definition stream survey done before the big hurricane event? And having those baseline conditions, knowing what was there before, because a lot of that restoration was done not knowing exactly what was there before. And so what are
guessing.
they're guessing. What are they restoring it to?
So when you're doing what you do for a living, how do you balance the technical side of what you do with the sales side of your brain thinking about that? Because because they're dynamically different in their approach and how you have to do that.
Very different. So I started the company. It was just me back in 2012. And so that's when I had to do the proposal writing and the report writing, which I go back and look at those reports from 2013. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's
But that means they're better now, right?
Light years better, because I don't touch the reports.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, and even like this last project specifically was almost like not necessarily a training, but getting we have 3 employees underneath the 3 owner operators. And so, again, just to back up a second, between 2012 and 17, when I merged in 2017, that's when, Jim is kind of director of R&D, and then I'm director of marketing, and Emmy is the president and runs the company and keeps us pointing the exact directions that we need to go. But we all still wear a lot of the same hats. And now that we have 3 employees, we're starting to get more siloed into where we are most useful. And my most useful, like, I go to conferences. I go glad hand is what I like to call it. And I love going to conferences. I love doing field work. But I will say 2 weeks away from home this past month,
it's a long time. When you got young kids too, man.
Yeah, two boys. They started missing their dad. And either way, I haven't been homesick either for a while, but I was definitely homesick a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, very cool.
Wanted to get home. Also, it makes me think about military, just as a little offshoot, and just absolutely, like, I have to applaud them being able to leave for months at a time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Their family, like, it's
hard to imagine.
2 weeks was hard for me, so I can only imagine, going to a hostile environment and leaving your family at home.
And the spouses that stay at home that hold things down too, man. I mean, it's amazing what they do. We're lucky to live in a community where we have a lot of folks like that serve and go fight, and then
it's amazing.
Yeah. So with regards to your career path, if you had a young scientist who wanted to get into the kind of ecological work that you guys do, become an entrepreneur, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Those internships, first and foremost, go see what's out there, and that'll just really help zero in on exactly what you want to do. Because I remember, and even like going way back to high school, I originally said that I wanted to be a barber so I could stand around all day and talk about fishing. Yeah. And then I was like, well, no, just go work in fishing. Yeah. And so I just remember those internships made me realize, like.
And now you can share fishing stories and, water stories with your barber.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Do you need to go to barber?
I am my barber.
You are your barber.
Yeah, man. Good old Dollar Shave Club.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Nice. So of all the different streams and river systems that you've seen, man, what's one that really stands out as one of the most beautiful that you've seen?
Yeah, the Upper Delaware and the New River. So the Upper Delaware is the border between New York and Pennsylvania. That one was absolutely beautiful. The New River, I did the section, the 160 miles going through the state of Virginia. That's before it flows through West Virginia, and you have the gorge and all the whitewater rafting. Yeah. That's hopefully our next goal, though, however, is getting all this equipment on a whitewater boat.
Oh, wow.
So we'll say we've done numerous class 3s and continue to operate going past them. Some other reputable ones, the Paint Rock River in Alabama, that place has a special spot in my heart. And that is, when you look at the whole watershed, a very large portion of it is still forested. And it shows when you look at the water quality and the biodiversity. Yeah. And that's kind of North Alabama, and it flows into the Tennessee River. But yeah, the Paint Rock, Upper Delaware, and New River, definitely pretty amazing. And then
that's awesome.
I also did the Wekiva River just north of Orlando, which that was spring fed and very beautiful, but we were doing an eelgrass mapping. So not only did we document where eelgrass was growing, which is some of the main food for various wildlife, including manatees. So we documented where it was, but we also used that data to extract, what is the suitable habitat type, and then where within that watershed was there not eelgrass, but there should have been. And so again, just another one of those things that you can prioritize, submerged aquatic vegetation. So the Wekiva was beautiful. The one tributary specifically, the Blackwater Creek, I paddled over at least 50 alligators that day. And that was the first for me. That was when you turn a corner and you see some big old head just looking at you, and then it sinks below. Yeah. And you see the little air bubbles going up to your kayak, and you're like, oh
It's
man.
not a lot between you and them either.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
It was a shallow stream.
Yeah.
So,
I had a day at Deer Point where I drifted over an alligator, and he was a big boy up there, and I just didn't move. I probably was that far above him, and if he'd have thrashed, but yeah, it's amazing to see that wildlife up close like that.
oh yeah. And it's amazing what happens when you leave them alone, because they tend to just leave you alone.
Yep.
It's pretty funny.
Respect the
observation.
alligator.
Respect the cottonmouths, all of it.
Yep, all
I
of them.
remember some people. I had like the worst impression of cottonmouths. Of like never seen one, and people are like, they chased after me, this, that. We mapped 250 miles of the Hurricane Creek watershed by backpack.
Yeah.
Like hiking through. We wore shin guards because we saw 10 a day. We saw quite a few, but they were beautiful. Like
Yeah.
all they do is just sit there with their mouth open.
They
It's
just
like,
left you alone, pretty
little
much.
guy,
Yeah.
and just keep on walking. Like they were beautiful and harmless, and either way, I gained a whole new respect for them.
Yeah.
Compared to the stories that I heard about them.
Yeah, you see it for yourself. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Except for that, just people afraid of certain
are
things.
ridiculously afraid of snakes.
Yeah, for sure.
Mind blowing, but whatever.
So let me ask you a question. So if you had no budget restrictions, and you could do any kind of dream project that you want, what would that be?
Top to like, I would love to do like the whole watershed, and so. We work from different platforms. We have a backpack method where if the streams are too small to kayak, and then we have the kayak method, and then we have inflatable boats that we can run two at a time if the river gets too wide. And a lot of times we'll just do the main channel, that longitudinal. But when we can start doing the entire watershed, and you can see throughout that whole watershed what is going on, and man, to pick a watershed, like we're in talks right now to do the Nolichucky watershed. Hopefully that's up in starts in North Carolina, flows into Tennessee. But yeah, honestly, as long as I'm on the water and helping improve water resources,
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere.
Yeah. Does your love of the water tie into fishing, kayaking, all that, like in your personal life? Like, does that?
All of it, dude. Even after spending 2 weeks on the water, a week and a half ago, I had my boys out on the Econfina Creek on Sunday, and so no, I love the water. It was kind of nice to float the river without having to look at 6 different electrical systems, making sure everything's running.
And just enjoying it. It's in your blood, is what it sounds like, man.
It's great.
Yeah.
It can be stressful because there's so much stuff that can go wrong, and so it kind of weighs on you when you're in the field. But I do have to like remind myself, like, oh man, this is my office today. Like, this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you have to remind yourself because it can be high stress, just making sure everything runs correctly.
So I do this around town. I'll be at a restaurant and I'll look at like their data cabling or stuff like that. Like and it's weird. Like most people just sit there and enjoy their meal.
Yep.
When you're out on the water enjoying personal time, are you looking at what's around you from like your business? You're like, oh my God, look at that over there.
100%. Even my wife Tess, even she's like, oh, look at that erosion over there.
She's like, yeah, girl.
She's like an undergrad level hydrologist by now, being
Nice.
married to me. She understands what's good and what's bad.
She's like, oh no, cows.
Oh yeah, she knows. Like, get them out of the water.
I had one time in Venice, Louisiana, and we had been to the bar, and it was, I don't know, 1:30 in the morning. And somehow in the middle of that little swampy area that we're going through, there's a cow out in the middle of the darn road, man. And I mean, you just smack dab in the middle of the road. So they're everywhere. They're a scourge. We need to eat more of them. So
I don't know if that solves it. It was in the management.
That would probably lead to more of them because in the business, yeah, I got you.
So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy right there.
So do you have a favorite fish success story where your work has improved a fishery?
I think that the eelgrass one that we just did, I think is going to have a big impact on improving fisheries habitat. And so, like, if anything, what I do, you also have to think about, all I do is I collect the data and I deliver that data to the managers. And so, like, once I deliver the data, I'm not necessarily too involved with the project unless we go back out and resurvey and show that change over time. And so I don't necessarily have like a specific instance or a specific fish that necessarily, became improved.
as a
But
result. Well, I'm sure.
as a direct result, like I'm sure it has happened. Like we've done work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, and so
Well, and a lot of those things, like I fish Wimico a lot, and there's a lot of eelgrass around Wimico, and the fish relate to that eelgrass as well. So I know that the things that you do have an impact in those fisheries, and
mhm,
whether it's you know down the road a ways and all that. But I'm sure that the work you're doing is helping to make those fisheries more healthy and productive.
100%.
Yeah.
And then even so, some other suitability that we do. We did the National Park Service. We surveyed the Chattahoochee River for the National Park Service, and so like you bring in this recreational component, and so they manage that body of water. It's like 40 miles of the Chattahoochee River National
Mm-hmm.
Reserve, and so they have tubers, they have whitewater kayakers, they have like every level of recreation, angle, just wade fishing versus
Mm-hmm.
boat fishing. And so they, got all of that data, and that helped them better prioritize, do we need to have more angling fishing access to this area because there's awesome fishing,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no access for the fishermen to get there and use it.
Yeah.
And so I do know firsthand our data has helped improve recreational opportunities on the Chattahoochee River, and then once we deliver it on the new river, it'll be the same thing.
Yeah.
And so there's on the Chattahoochee River, I remember doing the survey. You'd see some like second graders in tubes floating down the river on a field trip. Well, there's some sections of the Chattahoochee that would result in like a hospital visit. And so
Yeah.
like knowing
Yeah.
what types of recreation you can do where, what's most suitable where, and then you can start prioritizing what recreational infrastructure you need to have in order to get the most use out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're also stewards, and so they take that into account as well, like use and abuse. Like where do you draw the line? And so again, just having high resolution data that we
Yeah.
provide that allows them to make the most optimal decision.
Do you think that data, or maybe it is already, would be publicly available for fishermen that they want to check out a river system and see what that looks like?
And if it's federally funded, it already is available. You might
Mm-hmm.
just have to contact the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Office that has that data.
Mm-hmm.
Like you brought up like habitat suitability. Anytime we're working, it's like you can use this data, and I can tell you like where is the optimal smallmouth bass fishing hole, where is the channel catfish hole,
And
where's the muskie
seeing
hole.
structure and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and like
everything.
contours, and as a fisherman, I think about where fish would relate to,
Mhm.
and I think that data is pretty interesting to be able to when you talk about going and doing a day of fishing, you scout out the areas that you want to check out, and for a particular pattern of that time of year, I think that data would be very helpful.
Absolutely. And what's also good is you can model what, like, whether it's based on published literature or what
Mm.
you think would be the most suitable habitat. But then also, if you catch a fish, you can go ahead and ping that location, and then
Mhm.
you can pull up, okay, well, what is the exact habitat attributes right here?
Yeah.
And then I want to find all those other attributes
Yeah.
on the rest of this river because
Yeah.
that's where I found this one. So it's a good chance I'm going to find another one in a similar spot.
Yeah, well, and then it versus guessing where it's at too.
100%.
And that sounds like I need to start bringing my laptop on the boat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No, I've done a million times where we develop a pattern and it's like, okay, well, it's near eelgrass, near a drop off, and where the current's flowing and all this. And so if you had that data, you could quickly look at the map and say, here's 10 more of those spots that, I can go
Yep.
boom, 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 boom and hit those spots. And you're efficiently fishing that way.
Yeah.
Whenever I tournament fished, I would always try and do that where I develop a pattern and then I have my spots that I'm going to go hit
Yep.
that fit that pattern. So.
You said Lake Wimico earlier. That's the spot in between. That's the coastal.
Yeah, intercoastal waterway,
Right before-
just before you get to like Apalachicola.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, it's good place for fishing.
Good deal. I've not been there yet. I have a conference there in Apalachicola here
Yeah.
in a month.
Nice.
So I might have to stop by Lake Wimico.
Apalachicola is a great place, man. There's and you got the whole river system there. You got the bay. I mean, it's a great spot if you love fishing and
Absolutely.
aquatic life and all that, man. It's an awesome place to be.
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, man. So, is there a certain fishery that you would love to do work on? That it's anywhere in the world.
Hitting close to heart, Lake Erie. Like I know they have those harmful algae blooms every year because of nutrient and whatnot getting into to Lake Erie. I would love to survey every single river that flows into Lake Erie, the Maumee being one of the main ones in western Lake Erie. But again, just prioritizing like where's all the lowest hanging fruit and all the water that flows into Lake Erie. Then we can start, you know, again, like pick that lowest hanging fruit and start improving water quality. But like that walleye fishery up there in Lake Erie on the Maumee River, I mean, that's what got me started in this whole path. And so I'd love to get back up there.
That'd be awesome to bring it back around, man.
We're getting closer. We keep, you know, the majority of our mileage is in Tennessee and Alabama. We got numerous in Georgia, just did Virginia, got West Virginia, Pennsylvania. So we keep inching our way north. Yeah. I think we might need some additional marketing people. I can only be to so many conferences. And so that's so funny. You know, I'm a fisheries biologist. I did not think about, you know, training a sales team by any means. Yeah. But either way, that's
business evolution is wild, man. You end up doing things and going places that you just, you know, it's awesome looking back at it, kind of where you start and where you end up evolving to. So
it's been fun.
Yeah.
Been hectic. Sure. Lost all my hair.
Yeah. It's because you have kids.
Yeah, that too. A little culmination effect.
Yep.
But yeah, the Lake Erie would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to see it. So, well, very cool. Well, man, I am super grateful the kind of work that you do. You know, as somebody who loves fishing and our water systems and our rivers and streams that I use often, it's important that we're taking care of them. And so the work that you do has meaningful impact on it. So I appreciate you and your company and the kind of things you do, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more of it in years. And I'm gonna start bringing my laptop on the boat for checking out my spots now. So we'll have to talk about that. So
absolutely, I'll be happy to.
Well, man, thanks for being here today.
Absolutely,
appreciate it.
This has been great,
y'all. That's been another one in the live well for Between Two Rods. You know, whether your adventures end up in a trophy or whether it's a bird's nest of misadventure, you know, one way or the other, it's going to make a hell of a story. So keep making those stories out there, and we'll see you next time.